So I know I'm definitely late to the party, pun very much intended. But what I actually planned on doing for my 30th birthday was essentially a special video covering my history with every single one of the handhelds that I have in my video game collection. But I can't actually go with my initial plan, which was to make a huge video covering every single one in one video. So what I've decided to do is opt out for doing basically smaller, at least comparatively, videos covering each one individually. And as you might have guessed, we're going to start with the original Nintendo Game Boy. Now, I have a very interesting history with this one. I never actually had the original Game Boy growing up. What I grew up with was the Game Boy Color. I had the grape one. That's the solid purple color one, not the atomic purple one, which is the translucent purple. But yeah, I never had one of these as a kid. And I'm pretty sure that anyone who's always wanted something as a kid, but actually finally has it in their collection now has this feeling. But like actually finally having this thing is it's just satisfying, I guess is the best way I'd put it. You know what I mean? Because it just gives off that, man, I finally get a chance to experience this kind of vibe. You know what I mean? I think we all have something like that. Not just a video game, but like something in general. But anyway, I know a lot of people complain about the size of the Game Boy. And like you can see right here, it's very difficult to fit the thing in its entirety in the shot. Unless I do something like this. But I think when people criticize or complain about the Game Boy's size in terms of when they're actually playing it, like this, which for the record, I myself don't have a problem with, me personally, I think people complain about that way too much. And keep in mind, I'm not being hypocritical or nostalgic on either because, like I said prior, I didn't have one of these as a kid. I had the Game Boy Color, which was a lot more slimmed down. For the very first Nintendo handheld, like a Nintendo handheld that actually has interchangeable cartridges, I mean. Yeah, it's definitely a mad iconic system that I'm pretty sure everyone had at one point in their life, especially like hardcore gamers that are like big Nintendo fans. And I know that there are a decent amount of hardcore Nintendo fans that watch my videos, so you all know what I'm talking about. Also, the camera is acting very strange. Sorry about that. But this is actually not your traditional, average, everyday DMG Game Boy. No siree. Yes, that is right. You are seeing a backlit stream mod. And I'm not going to mess with it, but if you actually click the contrast wheel right there, it'll actually change the color of the filter. Again, I'm not going to mess with that because there's like, I think 34 different filters and it'll take forever to get back to the default one. But yeah, there's also a lot of other settings I don't want to mess around with. Like, for example, you can have, right here I think, something that'll actually showcase the DMG's battery life, which is pretty cool. So you can actually have a very accurate representation of how much battery you have left before you plug it in. Which, yes, on the back here, you're not going to be able to see it because the battery door that had like a little cutout in the plastic right here to showcase where the port isn't there, because I actually have this is a backup battery door to cover up that port. But yeah, it has a USB-C port right here. Again, it's just nearly covered up right now, protected. And yeah, Ninja Gaiden Shadows is currently running. I'm going to talk about the Game Boy in general while I play this. I hope that makes sense and isn't a problem in any way. But yeah, it controls very well. I don't have any issue with the overall controls at all. Everything responds as it should. A and B are very clicky. So is the D-pad. The D-pad is kind of spongy and clicky, which is a good balance. I don't know if anyone else has ever noticed that with the original Game Boy's D-pad. Again, maybe it's just me. The only buttons I have a hard time with are start and select. Not because they're at an angle, as a matter of fact. The fact that they're at an angle in general is really cool. But they're not as prominent, you know? You can almost barely see them sticking out from that angle, you know what I mean? The overall... Oh, I forgot you can't actually attack those. No! Oh yeah, that's right, Ninja Gaiden, the game where you will die a lot, I forgot. But yeah, the overall sound quality is amazing. I don't think that this has a sound module, like an upgrade sound module to increase the overall sound quality. So... yeah, like hear how high quality that sound is. It's pretty decent. And as for the Game Boy sound quality itself, like in general... Oh, over you. Can I jump over you? No. No! I was trying to attack those orb things so I could get the... I think they were health pickups. But anyway. I need to stop saying that, I'm sorry. But yeah, what I'm trying to say is... I think people complain about the overall quality of the Game Boy sound chip too much as well. In the same way that people complain about the Game Boy's large bulk in terms of how big it is. Because I know one criticism the Game Boy gets is how every single game, every single one of them, yes, is in fact in stereo. You just wouldn't be able to tell because there's only one speaker on the Game Boy. But a lot of people complain about the Game Boy having high-pitched noises or high-pitched music too much. But if anything, you gotta keep in mind, like, the Game Boy does have some really amazing composers that make some really amazing music. Like, for example, my go-to example of someone who makes absolutely amazing, groundbreaking Game Boy music is Alberto Jose Gonzalez, a Spanish composer I am all too familiar with. For those wondering, he made the soundtrack for The Smurfs. That's one of my favorite go-to examples in terms of his work. Oh my god, that stupid spider guy! Yep, I died. Yeah, that's probably my favorite go-to example of how high quality his Game Boy compositions are. Oh, you're kidding me? I have to do that all over again. No thanks, I'll just pop in a more simplified game. While I do that, let me continue what I was trying to say. He's more or less an example of one of those composers that takes the technical limitations of what he's given and goes above and beyond. Kind of like what, say, Jake Kaufman does with 8-bit music on the Family Tracker. Oh, pardon me. So if you're one of those people who has that as a criticism, just keep in mind that, again, like I said, there are composers out there who take advantage of the Game Boy's sound chip and go above and beyond. Like I said, the aforementioned Alberto Jose Gonzalez being one of my favorite, if not my absolute favorite go-to examples of a composer that just really, really takes advantage of that and goes above and beyond. I do have to admit, though, if we're talking about games like this specifically, if there is one valid criticism I can agree with, it's that whenever there were ports of better versions of certain games, like for example Double Dragon right here. Since the Game Boy only has so much to work with in terms of button inputs, creative liberties had to be taken in a lot of ports, and sometimes they didn't turn out all that well. To be completely honest, like this is very clunky, punching and kicking with just two attacking buttons. It's very, very strange. And like picking up items, you're required to do that stupid button combination A and B. It's very strange. And actually, speaking of the whole thing of the Game Boy having very borderline ear-piercing compositions, though, yeah, this is a very prime example of that. I'm sorry. Like I said, if you want really good Game Boy music, again, literally anything done by Alberto Jose Gonzalez, to be completely honest. God, this is so broken. Not the good kind of broken either, like, oh, my character is so broken. Like, this is actually really clunky. Makes me actually wonder how Street Fighter 2 handled on the Game Boy, because I am aware that had a port on the Game Boy. That wasn't sarcasm. I'm really curious as to how that works. Or maybe more accurately, does it work? I'm not sure. Actually, Mortal Kombat had ports. I say ports because they ported 1, 2, 3, and 4. Well, 4 was for the Game Boy Color. Was it 3 and 4 for the Game Boy Color? And even then, or that one, whatever, were black cartridges. Can you stop it? God, this is so... I'm sorry, this is unwieldy. But yeah, like, that was another interesting thing about the Game Boy. The Game Boy had those backwards compatible cartridges. And even then, like, we have some more modern games, like, say, Legion of Evil. And the fact that people love the Game Boy that much to go back and make some really awesome games for the Game Boy in the modern day, that's incredible. But one more thing that I actually want to showcase to wrap up this video is something graphically impressive. Oh, pardon me, that is not graphically impressive at all. That is a garbled mess of pixels. I normally don't do that because I use rubbing alcohol on a Q-tip to clean my cartridges, but I currently don't have those on my by my side right now. It's like the most efficient way to clean a cartridge, for the record. Yes, Faceball 2000. This is legitimately a graphically impressive game on the Game Boy. This is incredible. Like, I am not even kidding. You have to see this. This is not a joke. This is not an illusion. You are not being trolled. These are polygonal graphics. It's merely just the frame rate that looks very choppy. I think pretty much everyone can agree that this is legitimately one of the most graphically impressive games on the Game Boy. Yes, frame rate notwithstanding, like I said. But like I said, these are polygons. It's not like, say, something that you find on the Game Boy Advance trying to pull off an illusion. No, this is legitimately a 3D first-person shooter. The only thing that's not impressive, like I said, is the frame rate. You can play it with people via multiplayer, via that link cable. I'm going to close out the video by just playing this for a little bit, but before I do that, I just wanted to comment saying that the Game Boy is amazing. Despite the fact that I never actually grew up playing the original Game Boy. But finally, having one all these years later makes me very happy, especially with the whole project thing I have going on. You know, basically trying to archive as many pieces of gaming history as possible. Like try and cover every single corner, everything obscure, everything mainstream. It just makes me very happy. But I'm going to shut up and just clear a few more rounds of Baseball 2000. I hope you enjoy. And that is going to conclude this video. Thank you for watching.